Hello everyone, this is the Paper Princess and we're going to get started on making my latest project. I'm calling this my Antarctic book. It's 9.5 by 8.5, has a 4 1/4 inch spine, and there's room in here for lots of pictures, and it's just such cute paper. I really love it. It's by Stamperia and the collection is called Arctic Antarctic. So what I used, I'm going to go over that real quick and then we'll get going on making the base album. So I used 2 packs of Stamperia's Arctic Antarctic 12 by 12 and 2 8 by 8 packs. I also used their Chipboard Die Cuts. That's optional because in these packs there's a whole sheet of paper with these same cutouts that are in the chipboard. So you can always fussy cut these out, put a piece of chipboard maybe, or cardboard behind each one to give it a pop if you want, or just leave them flat. But there's plenty here to embellish your book. So it's optional if you want to get the chipboard. I also used for the base of the album, I chose black. I think it goes real well with this collection. So I do prefer an 80-pound paper, so I often use this American Crafts cardstock. You can find it pretty good prices out there for a whole pack of this, 60 sheets, and they're 80-pound, which is really the perfect weight. 100's too thick, 60's a little thin, and you can use 60 though, but 80 really works the best. I will say also on this book is 4 pocket pages, so in between each page I'm using a photo mat, and that I use a 100-pound piece. So you'll need 4 pieces of 100-pound paper. In the book also, it's nice to break up. This is a lot of busyness going on, and it's nice to break it up with some solids. So I did use about 12 pieces of a light blue, and there's some gray in here. This is American Crafts Winter Collection, or if you can, and you know, I chose the light colors in the back, but like this pale blue here. But if you can't find this, just any pieces of like a light blue that would match this paper will do. So it's not too strict on that. Let's see. I do use art glitter glue on the hinge along with score tape, and 3/8 inch really works the best on my hinges. My hinges are 3/4 inch. The space between each hinge is also 3/4 inch. So this is really the perfect size. It's always nice to have some undo on hand. You never know if you want to reposition something. I do use a thicker score tape, and that's because we're covering this chipboard, and it will take a long time if you just have a small roll. So just get a nice thick roll. This is about 2.5 inches. You can use 3-inch, 4-inch, and it will just make this go a lot quicker. I do have bookbinding tape for the corners, and this is just a black cloth-like tape, and I just searched bookbinding tape on Amazon and got this. Is about 1.5 inches. 2 inches would work also. I do have a mitering tool that I use when I cut the corners for making the book. It's got a 1/8 inch space right here. If you can't find this or you don't want to purchase one, you can use a regular ruler, an eyeball you want 1/8 of an inch space with just 2 lines on a ruler. I will show you both ways. But this is by www.colorwaysarts.com, and it's just nice to have. And what else? You do need a piece of tyvak, and you grab this. I just get a mailer from the post office and cut a piece, and that's what we're going to use on this as well. So let's get started. I do want a disclaimer here. When we make the book, I can't show you how to make the hinge because I don't have a license to teach that. But many of you have made a hinge. You can also go to the person who invented the system. A lot of you know is Kathy King at paperphenomenon.com, and you can go to her site. Any of her tutorials will show you how to make a hinge, and you'll have that knowledge forever. It's worth having, plus her projects are gorgeous. And she also sells paper there, so that's where I can point you to that direction if you don't know how to make a hinge. But a lot of other sites do have a license, and they teach her system. So that is what I'm going to be using on here. And let's get started right now. We'll get into this. Okay, so what we're going to do is take out 2 pieces of your cardstock that you're using to make the album. Now, like I said, I'm choosing black, but you can use dark blue, medium blue. You can make this book in blue if you want. Up to you. And so we want 2 pieces of 12 by 12 and 1 4-inch piece, 4 by 12. So let me look. I have a bunch of scraps to my side here. Let me see if I can find a 4-inch piece. If I can't, I will just cut one. Let's see. I don't know. Let's see. This might be it. Yes, this is a 4-inch piece. Yeah, so I always save my scraps. You can use them. We're going to be making lots of flaps here, so I always save my leftover pieces. All right, so the other thing I wanted to go over real quick is the chipboard. I'm using 90 point chipboard. They call it 90 point. It's a medium weight, but it's a little heavier than a lot of medium weights that I've seen out there. And I got mine Paper Accents has, or you can again go on Amazon. I often use 8.5 by 11, but for this particular book, since it's 9.5 across and 8.5 down, you have to use a 12 by 12 piece. So you'll cut 2 12 by 12 pieces, and basically you'll take your 12 by 12 piece and find which end is stiffer. So if I'm holding this up, this is stiff, this one's wobbly. I want my stiff side to be where I measure 9.5 and make a cut there at 9.5. Okay, so this is how the book is going to lay. It's a landscape book, and you want your front and back covers to be nice and stiff. So that is why I use 12 by 12. So cut 2 pieces at 9.5 by 8.5, and cut 1 piece 8.5 by 4 1/4, and that also is stiff when you try to bend it like that. I'm going to set that aside. We're going to cover that with score tape in just a moment. But for now, let's take our 4 by 12 inch piece. I'm going to grab my score. You can either use a score runner or a scoreboard, up to you, whatever you prefer. And we're going to score 1/2 inch on both sides of this 4 by 12 piece. And if you're using the American Crafts, you want the flat side up, the linen side down. And that will make our bumpy side on the linen side. So I've got my flat side up, and then I'm going to score right here, 1/2 inch on each side. And put that glue away here, and I'm going to take my 3/8 inch tape and tape along each side. I'm going to go on close to the bottom as I can. I just want to be under my little score line here because that has to fold. I'm using a tear tool I just made out of a piece of, I think this is a 4x4 piece of plastic. I put a telephone dot on here just so I can hold it. You can use a ruler if you want. You can cut it with scissors. If you have long nails, you can hold your nail down and rip. Whatever works for you. And then whenever we put tape down, press it down. Get any air bubbles out. It will just stick much better if you press it down. Okay, and then let's fold it over. All right. The next thing we do is take a piece of your 12 by 12 And now this is the flat side, and this is the flat side. And basically we're gonna just take this piece and fold it over here. So what I do to line it up, this is just a trick I do and it helps. I'm going to move my backing, put the piece on top, just so the 12 by 12 and the 4 by 12 are butted right up against each other. I can see that it's lined up over here, and I can tell that they're right up next to each other because I don't see any table showing right here. So I'm just going to press that down, walk it over to the middle, press a piece down, go over to the end. By now, if it might have shifted, you just put it right up against each other so you don't see the table there, and you press that down. And then the whole thing lays down, and it is on perfectly straight. So that's just a method that I found that works. So now let's do the other side. Take our other 12 by 12 piece, got the flat side up, and we're just going to do the same thing. Take off this backing. It's good to have a little trash can nearby because you're going to have lots of score tape here. So let's line this up again. I can see that this is lined up. It's lined up over there. I don't see any table. It's right up against it. I'm going to press that down, go to the middle, press that down, walk myself over here to the edge, and press that down. And now we have a nice piece of big cardstock that will hold, and we will be able to wrap all the chipboard in this. So what I'm going to do first, while I've got this out, is I want to cut. I need to make an intersection point right here where I put the first piece of chipboard, and the rest will follow. So I like about 1.5 inches, which is what this ruler is. This is got 1/8 inch and 16th of an inch measurements on here. If you don't have that, that's fine. I will tell you on a regular ruler what line to be on, how many lines past the half, or so don't worry if you don't have that. A lot of you may have this Tim Holtz ruler. It's the same width as this ruler. So just about something that's about 1.5 inches. You go right on the edge here and draw a pencil mark. And do the same thing across the bottom. And this you go all the way across. Okay, then I can set this aside for the time being. And let's bring out our chipboard and the tyvak. So let me grab a piece of that. And let's see, I'm going to cut a little piece. Oops, I got 2 here. I want to cut a little piece that's going to go and stick out a little bit past this spine so that when I wrap it, it will protect the corners. So this piece here looks about right. Let me grab my scissors. And I'm going to cut it so it fits right about here. So this doesn't have to be an exact measurement, like I say. Just pick a piece that will cover your spine, like that. All right. So now we're going to take all 4 of these pieces and cover them completely with score tape. So let's start with our front and back covers. And got my score tape right here, and let's just cover this whole thing. This one, I can't really use my tear tool. It's not big enough, and I've tried that before, and it makes not a very clean line. So I'm just going to turn it over and cut. Okay, so for the third one, I'm not going to go right under this second piece. I'm going to go straight to the bottom, because the edges are really what's important. And for right here, I can use my smaller tape. And let's do the same thing to our back cover. When I'm done putting all this tape on, I'm going to press it all down with my bone folder. Get any bubbles out and just press it down real nice. It'll stick better. And then I'll go to the end. They do also sell 1/2 inch, 1 inch score tape. That a lot of times is handy. But I will just take my 3/8 inch, and that fits right in here. Okay, now the spine. If you have a 4-inch roll, that would work perfect. I did use that once. I should get another one. It was handy. Okay, so for this, I am going to just take this and cut off the end. You can either, for this last part, use your 3/8 inch, but I'm just going to use this because I can use this leftover piece on the tyvak. So let's cut this off. There for a second. Okay, and now for the tyvak. Let's help the piece at the bottom. Again, basically your edges you really want to have down. Some nice score tape. I'll take this piece, use that, and then some smaller pieces. Okay, so now let's press everything down. I feel like I'm ironing this cardboard here. Whoops, a little piece came off. That's all right, it's just the backing. First time that happened. All right, I've got all these pieces, and now what I want to do is let's bring back our big piece of paper here, cardstock, and I want to lay these out before I take anything off. I just want to lay them out because the first thing I want to lay down is this tyvak. So I got to know where to put that. So we're going to have one piece of chipboard starting in the corner right here. And we'll have a space there, and then this piece right around there. For the space, you want to have a little spacer. And the general rule of thumb is to take 2 pieces of whatever chipboard thickness you're using, tape them together, and that's how much space you want there. Okay, so I know it's going to be around here. Set this aside for now. This piece is basically going to go underneath here and just have the same amount sticking out each side. So I'm going to, for now, put it on top and just put a little pencil mark where this edge is. And that's where I want to lay this down. So I'm going to take this up for now and lay this piece down right at that pencil mark. Okay, so let's take all this backing off. Very, very sticky. All right, so now we're just gonna put it down right where that pencil mark is. And we got our pencil mark going across the bottom. I'll go right up to that line and then put it down. And that'll give us just some extra support. All right, so now for these, let's start with one of the bigger pieces. And make sure the long side is facing across the top. And you can just do a little bend test, and yep, that's our stiff side. So that's facing the right direction. What I want to do here is take the corner, let me see. I'll turn it like this. This is a little straighter. This is a little more jig-jaggedy. You put the jig-jaggedy always toward the inside and the straightest edge toward the outside of the book. I'm going to put the corner of this here, and I'm holding this at an angle. I don't want to lay it down flat like that in case it moves a little bit. See, if you hold it at an angle, really the only sticky part is this little sticky sliver right there at the end. I'm going to put this in the corner. I can see that I'm lining this side up with that vertical pencil mark, and this looks about like it's going on the bottom pencil mark. If I need to move it, I can move it now. I got it in the corner here, and I'm just going to gently, slowly just drop this down. And it's right on that pencil mark, right on this pencil mark. Okay. Then we take, got our spacer here, got our spine piece. Let's take off this tape. So when I hold this here, I'm going to use my thumb across the bottom here and across here to make sure they're level. So I'm holding my spacer. I feel like you need 3 hands, but you can do this with 2 hands. Hold the spacer right up against that front piece. Firmly, this is also at an angle still, firmly press that against the spacer here. And I'm going to take my thumb and feel right here that these are level, and I can also see the pencil mark there. I'm going to slowly lift that down, and it lands right on that pencil mark. Lift that up, and you have a nice space right between. We will do the same thing on this side. Yeah, there was more space on that side, but that's okay. As long as we have this tyvak in the middle here, that's all we need. Hold this spacer right up against that spine. I got this at an angle, right up against that spacer. I'm feeling right here. I'm looking with my eye at the top. It looks lined up here. If you want to move it, now's the time. That looks good. And I'm going to slowly drop this down. And there's our space. Nice. I got a little bit of space on this side, top and bottom. It all looks good. I'm happy. So let's take our bone folder and press this down. All right, now we are going to draw a little pencil mark for the corners, and I'm going to use this miter here, and it's got 1/8 of an inch right in the corner, because that's all you need. You need 1/8 of an inch between this chipboard and here, and I'm going to show you in a second if you don't have this. So now we have 1/8 of an inch between here and this line, and we just want that little bit of space, because when you wrap the book you need it to cover any space around here, the thickness of that. So 1/8 inch is 2 lines on a pencil. So if you don't have this miter tool, take a ruler, hold it right at the corner here, and just go 2 lines and draw a little pencil mark right there. And you can make your angle, and you have 1/8 of an inch between this corner piece and here. Pull it back just a little, because when you make that pencil mark, all right, it'll be 1/8 of an inch. Right, that pencil mark is right where I put that pencil mark right here, right at 2 lines. Okay, so you can do it without this. This just is quicker if you make a lot of books. It's a couple dollars, it's kind of worth it. But if you want to make this book right now and you don't want to wait for this to come, you can do it with the ruler. All right, so put that away until my next project. And now let's take our 3/8 inch tape and go all the way around. We want to go all the way around the edge of the cardstock and all along the edges of the chipboard. Okay, now I have this pencil mark where I'm going to cut, so I don't need this tape to go all the way to the end of the paper. I can go right around there because I know I'm going to cut it. And just go right at the edge. If you're a little bit above the edge of this paper, that's totally fine. I'll go right to about there because I know I'm going to cut right here, so. And I'll go right here. All the way across. We'll go all along the edges of the chipboard. And then we will press this all down with the bone folder. You are almost done, really. It goes pretty quick. Before you know it, you make a couple of these and you'll just be able to do it without even thinking too much about it. And then you can make books whatever size you want. It's totally up to you. So that's pretty cool. Okay. So let's press this all down. Get my ruler out of the way for now. All right. So let's cut these corners. Okay, now then the last step is wrapping the book. We're gonna wrap all this paper over, and what you want to do first is get the paper used to being bent right there. So just take it like this, and on each side, just bend a little. That's where it's gonna be folded. Okay, so here we go. right, so now let's do the bottom first. We're gonna do our long sides first and then pull in the sides. So let's take off this score tape. And wait on the corners for me. I have to show you how to do that. All right, so I like to start things in the middle. So I'm gonna hold this down, take my hand on the table and just press up in the middle, right like that, okay? And then pick a side. I usually just go to the right first and go up. Start on the table and you're just folding this paper over the edge, just like that, and then go to the left side. Okay, and then just press this all down and it takes out any of these little wrinkles. Sometimes you get that. Got a few right here, so I can just press this out. Okay. Sometimes the chipboard cuts a little rough, so get a little wrinkle, but you can flatten that out. Looks good. And then I'm going to turn it over. Whoops. Okay. And let's do the same thing over here. I'll take off this bottom piece. Okay. Let's start in the middle. And just go across. I got an angle, sometimes helps. Okay. Looks good. All right, so I'm going to take my bone folder and just give it a gentle, get this used to being bent right there in that crease. Don't press too hard. You don't want to rip the paper, but just, it'll get it used to being folded right there. Okay, so now we're going to do our sides. What you do for that is, so we're going to take this tape off. Got a little piece stuck under here. Let me try to get that out. I think this is okay. Huh. That's all right. Just ripped off a little too soon. All right. What I do is I'm going to take my bone folder, and I'll explain as I'm going because I'm a little far away. But you want to, you know how when you wrap a present and you're at the ends, you fold in the corners and then you fold up? That's kind of what we're doing here. I'm going to fold in this corner a little bit here. If you could see that, I just folded this in right there so that when I fold over, there's nothing, it's not going to stick out. So this just wraps around this little piece. That's our 1/8 of an inch there, and it wraps around the corner of this chipboard. And then when you fold it over, you get a nice corner. Okay, there's no little piece sticking out. So let's do the same thing over here. Maybe tuck it in real quick there. Take off the backing. And just fold this over. Looks good. I like it. All right, now the last step for this is taking our bookbinding tape, and I'm going to cover these edges right here so that when you flip it over, you will have bookbinding tape on this edge. So every time you open and close this book, you're going to have cloth right there, and it will just protect the paper. So what you want to do for this, you don't start it at the top because then you'll see the edge of your paper. So come down about an inch and put this where this crease is in the middle of this tape. Got it right there, and I'm going to flip this book over and just go all the way down. This crease line actually gives me a little guide here. Up with the other piece. Doesn't have to be exact because you will be covering this up with design paper, but the part that will be sticking out is just this little bit, so that's what you want. So it doesn't have to be exactly straight, just as close to it as possible. Let's do the other side. And there we have it. Looks nice. I love it. So the next video, we've made our base now. The next video, I'll have my hinge in here and we'll start making the pocket pages in page 1. And I'm going to cover this also in the next video. And let me just tell you that the hinge, this is an 8.5 inch book. So you want to cut your hinge piece of paper that you're using to be 7.5 inch, because you're going to want a 1/2 inch at the top and bottom, and that will allow the pocket pages to fit on top, and they'll have a little bit of space here, so it won't stick out of the book. So a 1/2 inch is good. So cut your piece of paper 7.5 by 12. And like I said, I like a 3/4 inch hinge with 3/4 inch spacing. So if you make your first score line around 1.5 or 2, even 1 3/4, you will have enough space. So that is it. We'll see you in the next video. We'll have our hinge in here and we'll be ready to go.